Oh, hell yeah. I love me some Spider-Man. Seriously, guys. Spider-Man is not just my favorite superhero, he's my first superhero. Spider-Man the Animated Series from 1994 was the first cartoon series I followed just about religiously, and it was my gateway into everything Spider-Man. I always loved Peter Parker, his colorful rogues gallery, the street-level superheroics that still manage to be world-saving at times. And while the cartoon does suffer today from odd 90s pacing and occasionally strange animation, I still think it's a fine, distilled piece of Spider-Man for anyone to enjoy. And with the awesome-looking Marvel Sony movie coming out soon, it's a great year to be a Spider fan. But I'm not here to talk about movies for once. No, I'm here to talk about the classic PlayStation 1 game. Or rather, its sequel. The first game, simply called Spider-Man, came out on the PlayStation 1 in 2000, developed by Neversoft, best known for the Tony Hawk Pro Skater franchise, and was clearly based on the then recently cancelled Fox animated series, what with the design and the overall tone. Supposedly it was a great game, but I've never actually played it. But in case you're curious, YouTuber Cadigarus has made a video about it that you can check out using this card. He has a bit of a habit of doing that to me. Instead, I played Spider-Man 2 Enter ELECTRO, which came out the following year, this time outsourced to Vicarious Visions, who you may mostly know nowadays for a boatload of Skylanders games, and having a hand in the current Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy release. This is a very nostalgic game for me. I live in a small country, and even there I live in a small town, and my parents never really understood video games, so I never really got many. So that makes this one of the few I remember buying for my own money when I was a kid. And I played the hell out of it back then. Let's see if it holds up, shall we? Oh, okay. Looks like I don't need to feel bad about not playing the first game. Because this one has a handy little previously on segment, much like the cartoon, which really sets the mood. And apparently the first game was about Dr. Octopus attempting to control the Carnage symbiote? Oh my god, that is awesome and super cool and really interesting, and it has absolutely nothing to do with this game. Yeah, this game picks up right after the first one left off, but other than Spider-Man reading about it in the newspaper and a gag during the ending, it really has nothing to do with anything. But you know what? It doesn't matter. It's a completely unnecessary detail, but it really sets the mood brilliantly. I love it. Instead, this game starts off with a mysterious hooded man breaking into a lab to steal a strange device. And this man turns out to be Electro. What is wrong with his face? Oh my god. He looks like he just smelled what he's gonna be like in Amazing Spider-Man 2. I'm Electro. Fuck you, you're barely Megavolt. Man, I already never could take Starfish Man seriously in his ridiculous getup, but being permanently locked in disgusting gas station bathroom face sure isn't fucking helping. In fact, all the character models have these weird faces. The rest of the FMV graphics are serviceable, if a little bit stiff and outdated for 2001 PS1 graphics, but those faces are really distracting. Anyway, Electro steals the thing and fucks off, and we're off to the tutorial level.
Welcome, true believers. Stan Lee here to bring you yet another scintillating tale of superhero daring-do.
Oh my god, Stan Lee narrates everything. This is amazing. So the tutorial starts and oh my god, it's Beast!
Greetings, my web-slinging compatriot.
Okay, I didn't actually have a channel that showed X-Men the Animated Series as a kid, but I read the comics for a while and I remember the X-Men crossover episodes of the Spider-Man show, and Beast was always a favorite, and this is super cool! Yo, Beast! What up, dog? Rap with me. Okay, look, I'm sorry about my nerd boner, but this game is doing everything it can to be as big a scoop of fanservice ice cream as possible. And Stan Lee narrating everything? Well, that's just the chocolate sauce that goes in the sundae. I can't not fly at least half-mast over this. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm geeking out so hard that we haven't even started the game. Anyway, Beast teaches you the controls over the course of the tutorial, and they're actually pretty tight and give you a lot of options. Sure, you can jump around and punch and kick bad guys, but the gameplay is largely based around your webbing, as it should be. You get two web buttons. R2 lets you swing, while triangle lets you just shoot it straight ahead, but there are multiple options with each. For instance, pressing R2 will make you swing once in any direction you're facing, or twice if you do it in mid-jump. But since the movement is just a little bit clunky, it can be kind of hard to judge the angle if you're trying to hit something more narrow than a building. Well, never you worry, true believers, cause pressing L1 gives you a handy-dandy crosshairs. Press R2 when it's green, and Spidey will automatically turn to the right angle and land where the crosshairs pointed with his automatic wall crawling. What's that? Wanna go for the ceiling? Fuck the crosshairs then! Just press R1 to zipline instantly. Sure, the levels are fairly restricted thanks to the PS1's limitations, so you can't freely swing around a living, breathing New York, but this still gives you a lot of fast and precise movement, and it feels pretty good to leap and swing from building to building this way. Plus, you can hit the attack button in mid-swing and rain death on the peasants below. Then there's the triangle button, which shoots web, but that too comes with a number of options. Just shooting it at a bad guy wraps them up in the web, but if you combine it with any of the directional buttons, you can do a variety of things. Up and triangle lets you shoot hard web projectiles, left and triangle gives you webbed fists for extra damage, right and triangle makes a shield that you can break out of for area damage, and down and triangle yanks enemies towards you for a good sucker punch, or takes away things they're carrying. Gotta be careful though, cause you still do run on web cartridges, and if you get too excited with your fancy powers, you're gonna run out fast and get stuck with just your fists. And you don't want that, because even random mooks hit pretty fucking hard. Oh my god! Okay, I get that this is done to encourage web-based play and make the enemies a little challenging, but I can't be the one who's a little nerd peep that Spider-Man goes down like a bitch with just a couple hits. I mean, you'd think the guy who is strong enough to stop a speeding train could take a slap or two, right? Anyway, as much versatility as this gives you, I gotta admit I kinda forget I have the web fist and shield abilities half the time, and I find the other options much more useful. In fact, the web yank is downright essential against certain bosses, such as... We'll get to that asshole later. Oh, and of course Spider-Man never shuts up and cracks jokes like there's no tomorrow, no matter the situation.
What happened, Shocker? You flunked out of electrician school. You know, I wonder if Captain America has to put up with this. Man, I could use some inner peace right now, but I'll settle for no more samurai.
It's totally in character, and I love it. Alright, so with our newly trained up spider powers, it's time to go out and save New York. Basically, the story starts out by having you follow a thief carrying a briefcase to find out exactly what is going on. And on the way you get into a variety of wild situations, such as defusing a bomb, stopping a runaway plane from crashing into the gates or anything else in the hangar, rescuing hostages, chasing a helicopter, catching up to a train while a bad guy tries to stop you, breaking into secure labs, and much more. Granted, the missions do still kind of boil down to move forward to advanced style, but these slight deviations in objectives do still make each mission feel situational and like you're actually a superhero reacting to the stuff that bad guys do around you. Especially considering the very first thing you have to do is put out a burning building. It also helps that the game lets you do stuff like this. Gasp! That building is on fire! Worry not, citizens. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man will sell... Oh man. 16 years and that still makes me laugh.
That did it!
Now, a superhero is nothing without some baddies to fight, so of course Spidey runs into a bunch of his old playmates during his hunt for Electro. Such as Shocker. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. That's pronounced. Shocker! This goddamn son of a bitch. Sandman, the Lizard, and what the fuck is that, Beetle? Beetle! Okay, look, I'm not surprised the game is using a small-time villain. I'm just surprised he's in the game at all. Unlike everyone else, Beetle just shows up and fucks right off in the span of 2 cutscenes, and you never get to fight him. And this is despite him never actually showing up in the cartoon this game is clearly based on. Granted, neither did Sandman, but at least you get to fight him twice, almost as if to make up for it. Look, I know I'm nerd raging here, but try and see this from an 11 to 12-year-old boy's perspective. I like Beetle. I had a toy of Beetle. Hell, I still have a toy of Beetle. And here he is in the game, even though he never showed up in the cartoon, and then he just shows up for one cutscene, fucking bails, and you never see him again. My little boy dreams were crushed, man! Granted, this isn't the most interesting bunch of Spidey's bad guys you could come up with, especially considering the first game had Scorpion, Rhino, Venom, Mysterio, Dr. Octopus, and even Carnage Symbiote Octopus. But hey, the Lizard was literally my first real supervillain, and I always liked Shocker and Sandman, so I ain't complaining. Frankly, I'm amazed that none of the goblins are in either game, considering how badly they tend to get overused. Warwick Davis wore it better.
A ring around a rosy, a bucket full of posy.
Anyway, much like the levels, the bosses are rarely straight up fights and are pretty situational, which fits well with Spider-Man's usual theme of having to use his Peter Parker intellect and think fast on his feet to defeat his enemies. The first boss is Shocker. Who you fight in a warehouse as it's about to burn down, and you have to yank the crates dangling from the ceiling on top of him to knock him out. Now, this is a super cool boss fight in concept, but oh my god, is it bullshit! You're supposed to stop and use the web yank, but the crates are always a bit out of your sight and your supposed auto-aim can't find them for shit. And even then you have to get him into the right position to even throw them at him in the first place. And all of this, even with the crosshairs aiming, is nearly impossible to do because he never stops shooting. You just have no time. And if you waste the crates, well, congratulations, you're fucked. I mean, it's not exactly impossible by any stretch, but it felt more like luck than skill when I finally did beat him. And it's just a shame that Shocker has to be such a drag, even if he was always more badass in the comics than he was in the show. Shocker! Alright, mister, that was your last chance. That symbiote is coming off right now.
I'm sexy and I know it.
No!
I'm sexy and I know it.
You don't like that, do you?
Check it out.
But the bullshit is about to reach new levels because next up is dumb, ugly, stupid ass, shit eating, piss drinking, goddamn motherfucking Hammerhead. I hate this guy and I hate this fight. How the hell the lamest Spider-Man villain in the game manages to be the biggest pain in the ass is beyond me, but oh my god does he piss me off. You fight him inside an office building and he's invincible as long as he's holding the machine gun. So the trick is to yank it out of his hands and wail on him, or do the same whenever he dashes at you headfirst into a wall and gets dizzy for a second. Now you might say that doesn't sound too bad, and you'd be right. If it wasn't for the fucking camera! See, you fight him in this square-shaped area, running through the same 4 halls and around corners, but you have no way to adjust the camera on your own outside of tapping the R1 button to snap it to a back of your Spidey. The problem is you then never have a good view of where Hammerhead is, and unlike his dash, his bullets don't seem to activate your spider sense, so you keep getting fucking shot from behind where you can't see. And even if he does the dash and gives you a spider sense warning, there's no guarantee he's gonna hit a wall, and it's just fast enough that your zipline doesn't always save you from it. Also, remember how to do the web yank? You know, down and triangle? Well, guess what? The D-pad can also control which direction you're facing, so you might line up to yank away the gun, only to accidentally turn around and expose yourself to get utterly ass-rammed. He even starts the fight by charging straight at you, so unless you've played the game before or you're familiar with how he fights from the show or the comics, you're likely to just get knocked on your ass 5 seconds into the fight. I know this is a PS1 game, but when you base the entire gameplay on the character's mobility, a freely controllable camera would be really freaking nice. Especially considering this came out in 2001. Most developers had that shit figured out by then, so what's the excuse? Oh, you got in a few hits, and the fight moves outside? Hey, now we can move freely, right? Oh, great! Now a helicopter is shooting at you too! Look, maybe it's just me, that's definitely a possibility, but I hate this fight. And it's such a shame because it's so conceptually awesome. I wish the gameplay could live up to it and you could zip from wall to dodge bullets and headbutts. But as it stands, it just feels like the gameplay can't keep up with the idea. Normally the bosses would get harder as you go along, but from here they actually seem to get a bit easier and more straightforward. Your first fight with Sandman has him building walls to prevent you from catching a train, forcing you to throw objects at the walls in order to catch up. It's pretty fun and requires you to stay on your toes to dodge Sandman's attack while you pick up boxes. The second fight is even more straightforward, to the point of almost being too easy, as you're zipping around a construction site and all you have to do is pour water on him and beat him up when he solidifies. But it's still pretty fun and definitely feels like a Spider-Man fight. With the Lizard, you're once again restricted and can't really swing around since you're fighting him inside a lab, but all you really have to do is make some antidote and hit him with some cure darts to stun him and let you kick his ass. It works, but it's a little simple for an enemy that normally poses such a violent physical threat. And then there's good old Electro himself. You see, the device he stole does some science mumbo-jumbo about amplifying the electric charges within the human body. That would make a regular person pretty powerful, but with Electro it can turn him into an actual energy being. You first fight him as regular Electro inside a museum, and while at first it doesn't seem to be a trick to kicking his ass, it's actually rather simple. Oh. Those. I forgot about those. Not conducted. Right. Actually, I seem to remember that being a fairly standard strategy for whenever Spidey had to fight electrical villains in the show or in the comics, so that's a really nice detail. But then Electro gets a hold of the gemstone you've spent most of the game trying to prevent him from grabbing, and moves the fight to the top of a skyscraper, and it's pretty underwhelming. It's not a bad boss fight, but all you really do is trick Electro into shooting at these generators, which solidifies him for a moment so you can beat him up. And then when you realize he can just regenerate, all you have to do is set off 4 charges on the nearby tower to make it explode so he can't do it again. And thus, you defeat Electro, save the day, and get to watch Hammerhead and Shocker... That's better. Get to watch Hammerhead and Shocker ask the first game's bosses if they want to play Go Fish. Fun stuff all around. Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro is a pretty short game, all things considered. Assuming you don't die all the time and you know what you're supposed to do in each level and Hammerhead isn't being a shit that day, you can beat it in a couple of hours. But there's much more to it than that. The game has a whole lot of unlockables to get. A lot of these are automatic, like unlocking the FMVs and the bugle headlines you see between levels, but there's also Parker's Portfolio, where you get photos from beating the bosses depending on the difficulty you beat them at. They serve no purpose, but they're at least really cool to look at. There's also the What If mode, which basically makes weird, random and funny things happen throughout the game in place of the usual events. Fun stuff! But the real reason to keep playing is the Create a Spider feature. See, throughout the game you can find comic books lying around that unlock various things, among them being Spider-Man costumes from all across Spider-Man media, such as the symbiote suit, Spider-Man 2099, both Ben Reilly suits, and even stuff like the amazing Bagman and the concept costumes famed artist Alex Ross submitted for a Spider-Man movie that was in the works during the 90s. And of course, each of them are introduced with a little snippet from Stan the Man himself.
For all of you that haven't read Earth X, Spidey was nice enough to model Venom 2's outfit for you.
Oh my god, it's so cool. Heck, 2 of them, namely Dusk and Prodigy, are even from the Identity Crisis story arc, where Peter came up with 4 new identities after someone put a bounty on Spider-Man's head. That is so cool! I still have a few of those issues, but why only 2 of them? What's wrong with Hornet and Ricochet? Okay, never mind. The jumpsuit is just standard superhero stuff, and I get the leather jacket, I mean it was the 90s, but what's with the white hair? Is he honestly gonna stay at home to color it before he goes out to fight Dr. Octopus? But the real coolest part of all this is that these costumes in turn come with various abilities, like extra strength, unlimited weapon, stealth, and even outright invincibility. And you can then use the Create a Spider feature to combine any costume with any 3 power-ups to have just the playstyle you want. And make finding the rest of those comics and subsequent playthroughs just a little bit easier. Or, if you really don't want to do all that work, you can always just use a cheat code. I still remember it after all this time. It's Wash Machine. I always found that hilarious. Just don't think you can get away with being a cheeky bitch. It kinda makes Spider-Man mad. Spidey. Bro. You gotta lay off the airport erotica novels. So that's Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro. A hugely nostalgic game based on a hugely nostalgic cartoon based on one of the most famous superheroes in existence. Does it hold up? Yeah, I'd say so. Mostly. People say this one isn't quite as good as the first game, and while I wouldn't know for certain myself, it seems about right, at least in terms of story, ambition, and enemy variety, as this is just a slight bit too simple and could definitely use a better boss roster. One that doesn't include fucking Hammerhead! But outside of a few snacks in the gameplay and some occasionally weird character graphics, it's a lot of fun. It gets an A+ in presentation and has plenty of post-game content to offer for the hungrier Spider-Man fans. It really feels like playing one of the old multi-episode story arcs from the show, and playing it again after all these years was an absolute blast. Except for Hammerhead, he can go eat a dick! And I'm sure Spider-Man Homecoming will be too. See you later, true believers. Hey there, and thanks a bunch for taking a trip down memory lane with me. If you liked it, please press the like button and leave me a comment and follow me on my various social media. Links are in the description. And if you want to see more, you can hit the subscribe button and find plenty of other good stuff. You can also watch me replay this game for the first time in over a decade for the purpose of making this video over on my Let's Play channel by clicking right here. But anyway, thanks again and I will see you next time. Bye!